Good morning. It's Monday, April 6th, and today's topic is a particularly challenging one. It's one that I struggled with whenever I got up this morning to write. And to give a little context, I don't know what the subject's going to be until I wake up. I open my book, The Daily Stoic, which has a bunch of meditations. I flip to the day, today, April 6th. I read the meditation, and then it gives me a prompt. And when I struggle with one like I did today, then I definitely turn to the writings of different philosophers to provide that guidance. And today I think that's particularly important because I don't want the message to come across as holier than thou, because it's something I struggle with, but I think that when we look to others we can get the proper guidance. And that guidance is on the subject of, despite the worst things that people do, can I still love them anyway? And there's a Stoic principle called premeditatio malorum, and that really translates to the premeditation of evils, or the troubles yet to come, that I think many people view as depressingly pessimistic. But it's actually the practice of imagining how situations could go wrong, of the adversity that we could face, kind of like a Murphy's Law. But they believed that that act of negative visualization was very important because it helped us to prepare for setbacks. It recognized that unexpected blows are often the most painful. It acknowledged that it's impossible to prepare for or prevent something which you're unaware of. So, in an interesting twist, this seemingly pessimistic act of negative visualization actually builds positive, self-confident optimism that we're prepared to handle anything and everything. And just as this practice can be applied to events, we can apply it to people. So Marcus Aurelius reminds himself in his journal that when you rise in the morning, tell yourself, I will encounter busybodies, ingrates, egomaniacs, liars, the jealous, and the cranks. All right then. Well, there's the acknowledgement that not everybody's going to treat us just how we'd like. And then he goes on to say, they are all stricken with these afflictions because they don't know the difference between good and evil. Okay, now that sounds kind of judgy, but he continues on with, because I have understood the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, I know that these wrongdoers are still akin to me. So now he's saying, we're also guilty of doing wrong to others at some point in our lives. So, okay, but then what? He continues on, to feel affection for people, even when they make mistakes, is uniquely human. You can do it too, if you simply recognize that they are human too, that they act out of ignorance, against their will, and that you'll both be dead before long. And above all, that they haven't really hurt you. They haven't diminished your ability to choose. So to choose what? Well, to choose how to respond, to choose how to see things clearly and objectively, to choose not to take things personally, to choose to turn the other cheek, to choose to practice forgiveness. So while Marcus was emperor, he was leading the Western Army front in the Marcomannic Wars in the year 175 AD. And at the same time, his trusted friend and general was leading the army in the East, and he heard that Marcus was ill and possibly dying. And so he staged a coup and declared himself emperor and assumed the throne. So Marcus was advised to go and capture Cassius and execute him. And he took his army and he began marching east. And he actually said that his intent was to forgive a man who has wronged one, to remain a friend who has transgressed friendship, and to continue faithful to one who has broken faith. So if the most powerful man in the world was capable of turning the cheek against somebody who had wronged him that way, I think that's important that we consider the same. He reminded himself, when people injure you, ask yourself what good or harm they thought would come of it. If you understand that, you'll feel sympathy rather than outrage or anger. Your sense of good and evil may be the same as theirs, or near it, in which case you have to excuse them. Or your sense of good and evil may differ from theirs, in which case they're misguided and deserve your compassion. Is that so hard? So I think when it comes to this subject, there are a couple key points to keep in mind. The first is that inevitably, someone will treat you unfairly. That's life. But we are all guilty of doing that to someone at some time. And whatever harm we think we feel, it hasn't taken away our choice on how we want to respond. And then in the end, we have the ability to choose compassion, forgiveness, and love. Or as Marcus reminds us, life is just too short not to. Anyways, hope you found that useful. Have a great day.